Greetings and salutations. This is Wolfphototech, and here we go with Loot and Lore from the DM's Lair. And I still haven't gotten, if I get the angle just wrong, my light shows up on this, but hey, okay. I can't remember if I switched this video back to 4K mode. But anyways, tell me if it really matters in the comments below, and it's in 4K mode or 1080p. If it's just in 1080p, that would actually save a whole lot of uploading time and processing time. But anyways, this is Loot and Lore from the DM's Lair. This is actually from the most recent Kickstarter. I recently just received this. I actually backed this, so you can actually find my name in the backer section of this book. It MSRPs for $60. It's compatible with 5th edition. However, many concepts in this book is useful for Pathfinder 2nd edition, and some OSR concepts. Luke Hart is fairly old school, but he's not super. He's like a fun blend of like new stuff and old school stuff, and you know, he's been DMing since he was in high school, so I'll give him that. Yet again, opening page is blank. You got the yellow backing. Each one of his books, by the way, has a different color theme, with the exception of on the cover. This one has like purple. This one has like yellow. And Into the Fae happens to have blue. But interestingly enough, the special cover for this is blue itself with yellow. So there you go. Seeing as this is in 4K, if my camera focuses, you can actually, this is the backer section in the front of the book. You can actually find my name here. It's actually an easy spot. It's on one of the on the edges of the column. It's not in the center. So I always like that when my name happens to land on the edge. This is the table of contents section of the book. By the way, this Loot and Lore and Lairs and Legends are two compilation books that are combining many of the early issues of Lair magazine into a book. It's a PDF magazine that Luke Hart has on his Patreon. And a lot of the stuff from the first, I forget the exact number of issues of Lair magazine, gets recompiled into this book. Now, it's important to note that his books are naturally all designed first and foremost for new game masters, or in the D&D field, dungeon masters. So yeah, him and his team have put forth the effort of making sure that when they make a table of contents, their table of contents is very precise. You have every little thing listed out exactly in the table of contents. It is cleanly and easily divided up and organized, so that, for example, here you have puzzles. If my camera focuses, you can actually read that. It has easy. There's easy right here. And then there's a list of the puzzles, and then here they will have medium puzzles, and it's divided into medium puzzles here, all the different types of medium puzzles. Then you have hard puzzles, and this is a pattern that reoccurs throughout this book, that everything is extremely well organized. So it doesn't take much time at all to find what you're looking for, because all it takes is either turning to the front and getting to the table of contents and just quickly scanning over them, finding the section like NPCs, a little information on NPCs, and then quickly reading through the NPCs to find the NPCs you want. Also, in the very back of the book, he also includes an index as well. That's well organized. Oh my goodness. This is a thick book. This is over like 314 pages. Actually, 300 and 15 pages. But you also have a handy-dandy index back here that's all organized alphabetically. So if you happen to remember the thing alphabetically, you can come back here and you can hunt it down. And it's over many pages. Yet again, this is 300 pages of stuff. And then you have the OGL in the back. But anyways, going over this very quickly, you have the nice little preface. And then we move on to the next part, the introduction. It explains how the book is set up and some various rules of thumb when game mastering for players. Just fun little bits of advice to get people working. You have chapter 1, which is all adventure ideas. It is organized by tiers of tiers in game. So you got tier 1 adventure ideas, which is level 1 to 5. Then you have tier 2, which is level 5 to 10. Tier 3 is 10 to 15, and tier 4 is 15 to 20. And throughout the entire book, there is nice pieces of artwork that are interspersed throughout the book. This is a very good thing to do in books, particularly for someone who has dyslexia or attention deficit disorder, something I have to deal with. That it makes it easier when you have a picture that breaks up the sections every so often. So when you're reading along, you can get to a point and you have the picture as a point of reference in your mind, and you just keep reading and the Serpentine Shrine, the Augury and the Drugar, the Mother is Missing, the Lost and the Bound, Goblin Raiders, Necrotic Bacon. Necrotic Bacon. Oh, Beacon. Oh, I thought it was bacon. For 5 seconds, I thought this was all about necrotic bacon. Bacon is best with everything, including bacon. And I'm part Jewish, okay? So, I'm also part Native American. But anyways, it's necrotic beacon. Beacon. Not bacon. Okay, I might need to get some bacon now. But anyways, they're made of stone, right? The Pride of the Griffins, Naga's Tribute. Sometimes if you read some of the titles, Lost and Fleemed, the Gorgon Gallon, there's a slight degree of humor in some of these names. And it's all very well written out. It's very well spaced out. It's double spaced between each of the words. Or it's with a clear line. Nice typeface. Personally, I like a slightly bigger typeface because, my left eye doesn't focus as well as it used to. So it's always nice when you get slightly bigger text and it all spaced out very nicely. With pictures, as I said before, that allows for people to keep track of what they're doing. Let's go ahead and jump a few pages. We go to chapter 2, Encounters. These are just little adventuring ideas right here on the chapter 1. Encounters are chapter 2. You have you got various contributors here and cartography. And these are just little mini adventures for your characters that are placed roughly between levels 1 to 4. 5 to 10 and so forth. And you have a nice little selection. Now in this chapter, there is a few times where you go multiple pages where there's no artwork. It would have been nice if you could fit in a little piece of artwork here and there, but it's not that big. It's just nice when it happens, and it's helpful for people to keep track. You do have some really nice artwork here. And some nice stat blocks. By the way, these are all really interesting creatures, and oftentimes it's really nice that I've noticed that it is of types that are not typically common in the Monster Manual, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, Volo's Guide to Monsters, Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. In those books, you tend to get too many of dragons and too many you get a bunch of undead and you get some beasts. You don't get enough plants and you don't get enough constructs. there's a few things that are just lacking. And in this case, you actually have a plant type monster, a plant type monster, a plant type monster. They did a really nice job of getting a little more variety in here. A monstrosity right there. You get some new stat blocks mixed throughout. It is nice that you have all this awesome stuff in here. The only thing I don't care for having the stat block in here is that sometimes if you're looking for the creature for like an adventure that you want to homebrew run, you have a hard time finding it. However, if I remember correctly, in here you have oftentimes the names and the encounters with some of the monsters in it. This is one of the few times he does not have the monster stat blocks on the page on here, right here. So it would have been nice if he included the monster stat block listed, like Wolver stat block, page, Wolver stat block. Where's Wolver again? Wolver, yeah, page say 32 is Wolver stat block. That would have been handy. You got all kinds of other stuff here, but I have to get back to where I was. So you have a nice little variety of creatures here. And as I said before, the encounters range anywhere from like level 1 to level 20. And they're usually set in blocks. Encounters for parties from levels 1, encounters for parties from levels 11 to 16. Okay. Yet again, very nice artwork tossed in here and there. Some of these chapters are a little thinner on artwork, but they do put this right here. I forgot the term for that. Probably Luke Hart knows exactly what the term for those are. Could be a form of Celtic knot or a variant off of a Druidic knot. You got maps in here. Okay, I'm going to have to say something. Some of these maps are very nice, and if you blow them up large, like scan them and print them out on big sheets, you can easily see the grid on the maps and stuff like that. And then you have some maps. This one you can see the grid. This one is a really hard time seeing the grid. It is actually very thick with detail. And this map right here actually dangerously borderlines on unusable, where this map is perfectly fine. It's just one of those things that happens periodically. Most of the maps are in the usable category. This one is hard to use because it's just cluttered with stuff. These ones are perfectly usable. This one is not super cluttered. This one's not super cluttered. Yet again, the grid is hard to see on these dark maps. I would advise turning up the light levels on the maps and then darkening the grid lines. As you can see, when it comes to dark map to light map, you can easily see the grid lines on this light map. You can't really see the grid lines easily on this dark map. And then keep in mind, this is in 4K. So, there you go. A small little tip from me to Luke Hart and anyone making maps. If you want to make maps that are dark, I would suggest using white as your grid line instead of black. That would help out a lot. And I mean actual light, actual white. Yet again, another one of those maps that is so dark that you actually cannot make out the grid lines easily. Needs to be remastered in white. And you got a nice variety of maps here. Skip a few pages. By the way, all these maps are intended for the encounters in the chapter. So, some of the last ones right there. Fairly nice maps. And then you get to Chapter 3, Patrons and Factions. This has some of the patron rules he has created for 5th edition. You have a nice D6 table. Good artwork overall. A lot of D6 tables and D10s, and it's mostly D6s. But you get some D10s and D6s and D12s and D20 tables and so forth. And it's a nice little variety here. It's mostly D6 tables. Favors D6 tables a lot more. And then skip a few pages. Chapter 3, Patrons and Factions. Please note that in the bottom corner it states what chapter it is, right here, right next to the page number. So there you go. And then, oops, jumped too far. Then chapter 4, you have magic items. You actually have a really nice mix of magic items here. I would definitely say it would be nice to acquire these in-game. And typically the vast majority of the magic items in this book have some artwork that goes with them. But occasionally you will have a magic item that does not have a piece of artwork. Also, a nice detail is that pretty much all the magic items have their names right next to them. So you can always quite easily look at the magic item description as a game master and then point to the one or take a photo of the one and show it to your player and tell them that's what it looks like. Quiver of Vanity, a shovel. You got a really nice variety of magic items here. I do have to say that. You got some nice magical arrows. Skip a few pages. Then you got legendary magic items and artifacts as well. It's all organized by the standard order. The legendary items and the artifacts are actually quite nice. Then you also have tattoos here as well, which are a nice little variety of tattoos. You got ancient tribal tattoos. You got various trials in which you acquire them. You got lucky tattoos, mage hunter tattoos, and so forth. Perfected athlete tattoo, protector's tattoo, and so forth. Storyteller's tattoos, rager's tattoo, paw magic tattoo, magic curses. You have a section on magic curses, which is nice. I do agree with Luke Hart that a lot of magical curses or cursed items in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition tend to be on the weak side. So him and his team actually created a new rule set for magic curses that actually fixes a lot of the problems, and it's actually quite nice. One of those, probably those, my guess, this is actually placeholder for like, not enough people quite put money in to the Kickstarter, so this is just a blank spot they saved for another piece of artwork they could not commission because they didn't have enough money. Chapter 5 is NPCs. You got nice NPCs, good descriptions of them. You have a nice variety of NPCs overall. Tieflings, Dragonborns, humans, halflings, tritons, and so forth. Not going to show you it all. You even got a pixie in there, a centaur. Nice variety overall. Take it down, and then flip a few more pages. You got a lot of different NPCs, and then we get to the puzzle section, and it's very nicely laid out. As I said before, you got nice little blue boxes describe. These are read aloud boxes where you basically can read it directly to the players, or read it, get the idea, and then reconstruct the image however it best is described to the characters, and some nice advice on descriptions in the book, how to describe things here and there. But my the general advice that Luke Hart gives, and the general advice I like to give, is you have two options. The first option, which is the one he gives, is that you start from the point in which you enter the room, and you describe things as it moves into the room to the point of interest. So like as you open the door, you notice that the floor is dirty, there's torches on the wall, they're lit. As you scan forward, you see some pillars, some boxes, and then over the boxes you see some bandits standing over there talking very quietly in a corner. Stuff like that. Or if you really want to keep things moving along, you basically describe that there's a little dirt on the floor, this torch is lit, right over there in the far end, just past boxes, there happens to be some bandits that's talking to each other. Slightly faster version. It gets people's adrenaline working a little faster here and there. You got a nice variety of puzzles here with some pictures here and there. There's not a lot of pictures. In this case, I say, in the case of a puzzle, it's always nicer to have more pictures and maybe even maps. And this is probably the one thing that probably should have been upgraded in the book. Because when it comes to puzzles, it's really important to have something, some imagery or something to easily help work out what it looks like. And you got some handouts here, so you can copy those out of this book with a printer or something and hand them to the players. The puzzles are a nice variety, though. I do say that much. Then you have a random encounter chapter 7. You have Arctic encounters, and it's all D100 tables throughout this section. And it's nothing really amazing to look at. It's just a lot of D100 tables, and it's actually quite nice. You got a desert one, you got Arctic, you got desert, you got forest, you got underground. It just keeps on going. And it's not bad. It's actually quite nice. I like it a lot. You got hill option for random encounters. So if your characters are roaming around the hills, you got a mountain, swamp, and so forth. There's really no artwork other than on the very first page for each one of the sections. Underground, I said before there was underground. Underwater encounters. And then chapter 8 is random tables. Not like we haven't just gone through a whole section of random tables for encounters. We got a special section, a special chapter dedicated just to random tables. And this is random tables for everything. For shops, butcher, various stores, other fun little things here. Con artist inventory, herbalist inventory, jewelers, souvenir, tanner, stable, taverns, drinks, foods. You got a table for foods. You got taverns and inns table. You got a miscellaneous artworks table here. You got buildings and businesses, towns and cities and towns. Location random table. And nightmares. So like your party's sleeping, they get a nightmare. Western job board table. And then we have chapter 9, which is the special spell table. And this is actually quite nice. I do like this a lot. Some of these spells are actually quite nice overall. There's a few of these spells in here that are actually like updated versions of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 spells for 5th edition. And then there's some spells that are entirely new in themselves. Oops. And then we have chapter 10, which is subclasses. We happen to have a Bard, College of Chivalry, a Druid, Circle of the Sun, Fighter, the Weapon Master, Paladin, Oath of Secrets, and that's it. Bunch of marshals and a Druid. And we got chapter 11, which is Traps. The one I was talking about earlier that really needs maps for it is brain fart. I forgot. Puzzles, yes. Puzzles you need good maps for, and you need a lot of artwork for. Traps you also need a lot of artwork for. And this is also one of those chapters where you do have some nice amount of maps and diagrams here and there, but it's really nice if you have more maps and pieces of artwork for them. It's very important. You got a chapter 12 on villains. Yet again, you have some artwork for the villains, but not all. And it's all really nice stuff. Interesting. And then right in a few pages, we actually get to the index. So flip a few pages because I don't want to. I'm not going to show you everything. And then right after the villains chapter is the index. And I do say this is actually a really nice book. It's 300 pages, $60. I did get this off of the Patreon. I do not know if this is going to be sold in stores. So we have to wait and see on that. But if you did not get this on the backers kit, I would suggest going to checking out the DM's Lair website, the DMLair.com, and seeing if he has it up over there for sale in the coming weeks to months. Because I would definitely say if you pick this book up, it is really nice. You can build a lot of stuff out of this. Loot and lore is largely creatures and events and items and stuff like that. There's some monsters, but the monsters are specific to the encounters or the adventures that are included in the book. Layers and Legends is more of the book that has monsters in it and more of other stuff. So thank you very much. I do like the fact that he went with the alliteration. I'm always a fan of you know, adventurers, allies, and adversaries. And stuff like that, and Dungeons and Dragons, and chivalry and sorcery. Chivalry and sorcery don't have the same first letter, but they do have the same roughly the same rhythm in word structure, so it works out. They also rhyme because they end on the same few letters as well. So I would definitely recommend this book. My preliminary score for this book is in that 4-star territory. You get a lot of stuff for your $60, and you get a nice variety of stuff that you don't typically get in other supplements, particularly the official supplements, and it is overall very well organized. The only thing I would have truly wanted is more art, more diagrams and artwork in the puzzles and traps section. The maps to be adjusted so that the dark ones have white grid lines, and in the table of contents, wherever there is a monster stat block included, it is denoted as a monster stat block with a different with a page number tied to it as well. That way, if people are looking for monster stat blocks in this book and they know that there's a plant monster, they can just go to the table of contents and go right to that monster. That is like one of the few things that's not included in the table of contents, and I would really love it if it was. So it should be in that 4-star area. With those modifications, it's probably like a 4.5, 4.75. That's all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much. Please share this video wherever you think people will enjoy it or not enjoy it for whatever strange reason. It's the internet. I've seen people get in arguments over rocks and the choice of a color for a thing and stuff like that. So the internet is this magical place where the mentally ill can come out of their holes and they could throw rocks at people all day, and they could signal that they are better than other people, and it happens from all different directions, and it's because you're no longer directly in front of a person. You can't see what you're saying to them is mean, or you could act like you're doing something good when you're just saying you're doing something good when you're not actually doing anything good. It's just one of those annoying things about the internet. So I'm quite sure that there's somewhere, someplace, someone's going to hate stuff. It's absolutely not intended to harm anyone. And feel free to share this video around. Thank you very much for watching. Have a delightful day, a nice night, a wonderful weekend, magnificent month, and see you next time.